Hey guys! A couple days after I posted the cease and desist video, I was contacted by somebody who claims that they also had similar experiences with Daniel Greene. Again, this is just an allegation. I'm not saying that it is true. She wants to remain completely anonymous by name and face. However, she is okay with me sharing her voice. Again, this is just an allegation. I am not saying that it's true, but somebody reached out and she wanted to share her story. So I will be putting some audio from our chat in here, and I've dictated all this stuff onto the screen if you wanted to, hear somebody else's experience with him in the past.
We went to UMW college together. We were both in the same year. This was 2013, and we both graduated 2017. We started hooking up, and we were kind of in the same, friends group, friends with benefits thing, adjacent circles. This was sophomore year. So it was early fall when we started hooking up. So yeah, when the first time we were just in my dorm room, we'd never talked about sex or hooking up or anything before. And yeah, he just grabbed me and like you were saying in your video, he did the same thing, the very aggressive tongue action in mouth.
Yep.
So I remember at the time I was really really by it, but I was like, okay, I did want to have sex, so fine, whatever. But it was surprising. When we had sex, he choked me and bit me really hard without my permission, which I wasn't okay with.
Yeah.
After the sex ended, he asked me, he's like, is there anything that you want different for next time? Was there anything that you weren't okay with? It was this whole thing, I really prioritize communication and we need to be on the same page. And I was like, wow, actually, thank you so much for asking. The choking and biting, I wasn't okay with. And the next time we had sex, he choked me and bit me again.
Of course.
Yeah, and so, I was 19, so in the moment I was like, okay, fine, this isn't worth bringing up again, it's gonna be ignored. There was one time where I was hungover. I think in general, he just, anytime someone told him no, it was always, oh, well, it was
a challenge.
Yeah, I was like, I have a hangover, I'm not really feeling up to it. He'd wheedle, oh, I'd be so good, I can be so good with a hangover, blah, 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 blah. There was one time in the winter that I was he was, I believe, living in Silver Spring, Maryland. This would have been winter 2014 or maybe early 2015. And I was at Ultra Bar in DC. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's one of the few clubs where you can get into under 21. My ride ditched me, the person that I was with, and I called him and I asked him if he could pick me up, and he did, which I did appreciate. But then when he was driving me back to my house, he pressured me into giving him roadhead to wake him up on the drive. I was in a relationship. I didn't really feel good about it, but I didn't really feel like I could say no because I was like, you are going out of your way for me.
Yeah, wow.
He pulled over to the side of the road and he got a really intense expression on his face and asked if I was on birth control. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I think otherwise he would have come inside of me. But as it was, he just jerked off onto me. Definitely, I was watching your video and I was talking to my friend too, and because my friend, she's I told her about some of the stuff before, and she's like, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of patterns happening here. Let's see, I broke up with that boyfriend, short relationship, but I was I don't want to have sex with anyone. He kept pressuring for sex. There was one point he was just really pressuring, and I was like, okay, fine. As an alternative, I let him spank me and use a vibrator on me, and he used it so hard I bled.
What the fuck?
Which has never happened before or since. It was not a big vibrator.
Oh my god.
But that was unpleasant.
Holy shit.
And when I got into another relationship, this is towards the end of sophomore year, he was pressuring me to make out with my female friend. And this is, I feel this, he kept pressuring me to make out with my female friend. And I was like, I'm in a relationship, I'm not going to do it, not this time. And when I kept saying no, he eventually was pointed to me and was like, that's what I love so much about like, she's so loyal. Like, I respect this so much about her. As if he hadn't been, you know, spending the last 5 minutes trying to peer pressure me into cheating on my boyfriend.
That's so annoying.
So, it's like an unattainability thing. Like, as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you pull back more, it's, oh, I need this, I have to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for me, he would not shut up about the time that he worked in a women's shelter for a summer. Like, I don't know if he still was mentioning that, but it was like every single time, even my friends were like, good God, this guy, like, we get it. He worked in a women's shelter. He was like, oh, you know, these poor women, I just felt for their experiences and yada, yada, yada. It was terrible.
Mm.
He told me once too, because, you know, he has this whole like, oh, like, I'm really woke and I care and I'm progressive and I'm an ally. And he told me once, he's like, I don't date black girls. Like, black girls aren't my type. Just straight up said that. Like, okay. you didn't have to say that. Like, that's an inside thought to have. I don't know.
Ugh. He first slid into my DMs over Black Lives Matter.
Oh, yeah, no, that checks out, honestly.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, just, you know, not unless, you know, they're black women that seem interested in him. The Ultra Bar one is maybe the most specific, but I'm sure he's pressured plenty of women into Roadhead too, so, you know.
For the Roadhead, does that mean, like, he got you to do it while he was driving, or he just stopped on the side of the road and made you do it?
No, while he was driving, and then he wanted to finish, so he stopped by the side of the road, which is like, I don't do that crap. It's deeply unsafe.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is. It's one of those things where at the time you're like, oh, geez, well, he really did go out of his way to pick me up, and I don't have a lot of options, and oh boy, I guess I can. So, I feel like with him, it was always super, like, even back then, you kind of got the sense that it was really, like, practiced. Like, the stuff that he'd talk about, be good at talking the talk with, like, kink and communication, and like, I'm in the kink scene now, and this guy would never, I can't even imagine him being let into any of the clubs that I go to. Like, he'd be kicked out in a heartbeat.
Literally.
It's wild. And I told my friend, like, years back, I was like, there's going to be some allegations against him eventually. I was like, I know it's going to happen. I guess there's been more than one. You're not crazy. It wasn't just you, like, imagining things.
I really, really appreciate you reaching out. Like,
oh, that is something else I forgot to say. He absolutely had sex at his dad's house before. He would tell me about some of the times that he had sex at his dad's house. So I don't know if that changes anything, but like, oh, I was only there to visit my dad, so I wouldn't be having sex. Like, bullshit. He told me about the stuff that he did at his dad's place. I don't know if that's changes anything at all, but, you know, there you go.
Yeah.
I said, honestly, I'd seriously been waiting for years for something to come out, and it is weirdly incredibly vindicating, so